What's up, math addicts? Welcome to another episode of Math-tastic. I'm excited to be here. I hope you are too. Last episode, we discussed adding numbers when you had some negatives involved, like -4 plus a +3, how to do that. And we discovered that sometimes it looked more like subtraction, but it was still addition. It was weird, right? But this episode, we're going to talk about actually subtracting numbers when you're dealing with positive and negative numbers, also known as the integers. And you're going to find that it's really similar to addition and that we learned last week. But we just need to think about subtraction in a slightly different way than we have been. Normally, what we learned is that subtraction means to take away, or subtraction means the difference of, or what is the change. We use language like that. But I want you to think of subtraction, this symbol when we see it in mathematics, as a little bit differently than we have before. We're now going to think about it as add the opposite number that follows to the right. What does that mean? Add the opposite number that follows to the right. I'll tell you. Let's look at it visually so that we don't have to just listen to me talk. Okay, so if I have 3 minus 2, if we think of this as 3 take away 2, we know the answer is 1. We've been doing problems like this for a long time. But we're going to change our definition of subtraction now. Instead of thinking of it as taking away, instead of thinking of it as find the change or find the difference, we're going to say subtraction means to add the opposite number. The number to the right. Okay. All right, so let's break this down. A subtraction. I'm gonna find a cool color. That's this symbol here. Means to add the opposite number. What's the opposite number? Well, if I look at my number line, here's my 0. Here's the number 2. The number that's opposite to the number 2 is the number that is equal distance from 0, but to the opposite direction of 0. Which sounds really complicated, but actually it's not. So the opposite number of 2, the number that's the same distance from 0, but in the opposite direction, is -2. What's the opposite number to -2? +2. What's the opposite number to -10? +10. What's the opposite number to +10? -10. So to make a number the opposite of, all we need to do is either add the negative sign or take away the negative sign. Okay, wow, what was that? All right, so let's go back to breaking this down. A subtraction, we know what subtraction is, means to add the opposite number. We've learned what the opposite number means. And by number, we mean the number to the right of the operator. That is this number here, the 2, the number that we would traditionally say that we're taking it away from the first number. Okay, so what does that look like? That means I'm going to take 3 minus 2 and I'm going to turn it into 3 plus, because I'm adding the opposite number, -2. It doesn't change the answer. We still have 1. Now, you might be saying, but whoa, Mike, come on, man. I know 3 minus 2. I've been doing that since the first grade. 3 plus a -2 is new. I would rather work with 3 minus 2, and that's fine. You can work with 3 minus 2. But what if it's 3 minus a -2? How do you feel about it now? That's what I thought. Let's rewrite it. We're going to reframe. I'm just going to put this one in a little box here. We're going to reframe it using the rule. 3, I'm going to add the opposite number. What's the opposite number to -2? A +2. Do you know what 3 plus a positive 2 is? I bet you do. Aren't you glad for the rule? I bet you are. 3 plus a positive 2 is 5. 3 minus a negative 2 is also 5. It is weird. It is weird. And you might be saying, well, why would I ever want to do that? Why would I ever want to write 3 plus 2 as 3 subtracting a negative 2? There are some scenarios in life where this has more of a literal translation, 3 minus a negative 2, than 3 plus a positive 2, namely the addition of, or the subtraction of debt. And we'll talk about that in a second, but I want to show you a few more examples of subtracting numbers that we could just practice seeing it. I'm going to say 3 minus 4. I'm going to draw a line here so we can do a few. I don't know. Anyone want to say 3 minus a negative 8? I don't know why I just said 3 when I wrote 2. That's a skill. Let's say 5 minus a negative 6. And then last, certainly not least, we have negative 7 minus 6. Okay, so we're going to employ our rule. I have a colleague that refers to this as the bop rule. We're going to rewrite these subtraction problems. Instead of thinking of it as I'm taking away, I'm going to think of it as I'm adding the opposite. 3 minus 4. I just rewrote it, but now I'm going to do the bop rule. I'm going to write a line here to turn the subtraction sign into a addition sign, and then another bop to turn this positive 4 into a negative 4. 3 plus a negative 4. And now you can watch the last video about how to do this problem. This is a war, to remind you. Negative 2 minus a negative 8. I'm going to turn the subtraction operator sign into a addition operator sign. But now what do I do with a negative? I'm going to make that a positive. This is the only time I will actually actively write a positive sign to denote a positive number, is when I'm working with the bop rule. But you don't need that positive 8. I can certainly rewrite this negative 2 plus 8. What would the bop rule give us for 5 subtract a negative 6? I'm going to turn my subtraction operator sign into an addition operator sign, and then bop that one again to turn the negative 6 into a positive 6. 5 plus 6. And then a negative 7 minus a positive 6. Negative 7 minus a positive 6. Bop. I have negative 7 plus a negative 6. Really quick, here are the answer to these. Well, pause the video, see if you can do these on your own, or go back and watch the other video for a refresher on addition with negative positive numbers. And then when you have your answer, come back. Okay, you're back? Great. Here are the right answers. Negative 1, positive 6, 11, negative 13. How'd you do? I hope you did well. Okay, so I promised we would talk a little bit, and I won't go on and on about this, about why we may want to frame things as I'm going to subtract a negative number. Why sometimes it makes more sense to write that than it does addition. Oh, I'm sorry, just straight subtraction, I should say. And I think it really comes in the form of when we're dealing with money. So let's say I paid the credit card company $100, but then they discovered fraud on my account. So they took away I don't know, let's say $90 worth of charges. And let's say there's a $45 charge and a $30 charge and a $15 charge. What is how much have I paid the credit card company? So to write this in math symbols, it might make sense to think about all of this in terms of debt. This is all money I paid. I started with negative $100. That's how much I paid. The credit card company took away a $45 charge. They took away a $15 charge. They took away a $30 charge. These are subtractions, and I'm denoting a subtraction because the credit card company took away these charges that were negative numbers on my balance sheet. This is why sometimes it's useful to think about subtracting a negative as adding the positive, because when I actually go to do the math, I'm going to employ the BOP rule. This is $45 I get. This is $15 I get. This is $30 I get. 45 plus 15 plus 30 is 90, which leaves me at a negative $10. This would denote money that I've still paid the credit card company. It might be that they keep going with those charges and that number eventually becomes positive. Wouldn't that be great? But this is just one example as to why subtracting a negative can actually result in us moving our balance to the right towards the positive side on the number line. Okay, I hope you got something out of that. Our next video will be on multiplying negative numbers, and you'll find that it is the rules I find to be much more straightforward than subtracting and adding. So I look forward to seeing you then, and have fun answering the questions on your Ed puzzle if that's how you're engaging with this video. Okay, ciao. See you soon. How do I stop the video? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, the video's still going. The video's still going.